We had our baby. We had a beautiful little girl. Give you a little peek. This is Louisa, and we did an unmedicated water birth. So I thought I would share with you today all about that experience, kind of the pros and cons of a water birth, and all about her birth story. I'm Kelsey from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, and every single week I share content about farming, family, food, and fortitude here on our 5-acre homestead in northern Minnesota. So the very first thing that I want to say is that this video is not going to include footage of me actually delivering, having Louisa in the tub. There are women out there who have the confidence and the wherewithal to put that video out there, and God bless them. I've certainly watched plenty of those videos myself. I think it's incredible that people are willing to share that. It's so educational and helpful for other mamas to be, but if someone was trying to film me during labor, I probably would slap the phone out of their hands and yell at them to get out of the room, let alone I'm not comfortable having all my bits and pieces like out on YouTube for the world to see. So it's not going to include actual footage of that. It will have some pictures of kind of me laboring in the tub and also right when she's born. And I will include some footage of our placenta, which I know sounds weird, but my midwife, she had some nursing students that were there that day. And so she was kind of showing them everything and talking them through it. And I had my husband film it because I was fascinated by it, but I was kind of busy with her. And so I really wanted to watch that later. And I thought I could share that with you too. So Louisa is my second daughter, and I really hadn't planned necessarily to have a water birth. We're really lucky. We're the hospital that we labor and deliver at. They have kind of more like a birthing center type thing. So it's kind of set up more like a hotel room. It has like a pull-out couch and a TV, and it's not super medical feeling. And then also there is a midwife on staff. And then there's a bathroom with a huge jacuzzi tub that you can use for both laboring and delivering in. So that's something if you're considering a water birth and there is a medical facility that has tubs available, to make sure you clarify that you can labor and deliver in the tub. When we first were having our first daughter, that was something our midwife pointed out, was that they had just gotten clearance or certification or whatever it is that you could actually deliver in the tub, because that's kind of an additional thing. So make sure you double check on that if it's really important to you that you're actually delivering your baby in water. So with my first daughter, I had labored in the tub just a little bit, and then they broke my water while I was in the tub, and then there was meconium in there, which means that the baby had pooped already inside, and so then I had to get out of the tub so they could clean stuff up, and I ended up having her just on the hospital bed. Versus Louisa here, she was delivered in the tub, and so let me back up. Let's see, my first daughter, my labor was from start to finish about 15 hours. Labor started around 3 o'clock in the morning, and she was born at 5:07 in the evening. So with Louisa, I woke up around 1 a.m. and was just feeling kind of uncomfortable, a little bit funky, but my midwife and everyone thought for sure I was going to have her before her due date. She was actually born on her due date. So I'd been feeling really uncomfortable and just kind of out of sorts for a couple weeks leading up to her delivery. So I wasn't really sure that labor was starting. I thought maybe. And then around 3 o'clock in the morning, I started having actual regular contractions, and my mucus plug started to come out in bits and pieces. Also, I should have said this beforehand, that I'm going to be very candid talking about all these parts of labor and delivery and things like that. So if you are one of my relatives or one of my husband's relatives and don't want to hear about things like a mucus plug, now's the time to turn this off. So anyway, I got my husband up. We got a neighbor over to watch our daughter. Got to the hospital. It was a little bit different this time than the first time we went with my first daughter, and maybe it's just because of the global pandemic. They're kind of still being a little more restrictive on what parts of the clinic you can access. So we had to go in, and they had to ask us a bunch of intake questions, and I was heavily in labor at this point, and the lady's like, "Are you still working with this organization? And is this the best phone number to reach you at?" And I'm just like, "You can take a seat if you want." It's like, "I will stand, thank you. I am in." It was kind of funny, and I was just kind of laughing about it at the time. And then after that, we went to an intake room where they checked me. A nurse checked to see how far I was dilated. I was a 7 roughly when we got there. With my daughter Jane, when we got to the clinic, my midwife checked me probably an hour, a little more than an hour after we had gotten there, and I was already at a 9.5. So I'm a person I'm a person who labors really well. I just have a really hard time with the pushing, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So they checked me in the intake room. Again, I was about a 7, and then they moved me to one of the birthing suites. So you labor and deliver all in the same room. Baby room's in with you. Baby never leaves your sight if you don't want them to. It's really great. And so we got there. My midwife came shortly thereafter. My husband decided to go get some breakfast instead of getting food at the hospital cafeteria. He went to McDonald's, which was like down the road. And my midwife, and also there was a student midwife who was with her as well. They were both just kind of shocked at that because they're like, you are progressing very quickly. And my midwife knew that that would be the case since when I had come in the last time, I'd been at a 9.5. So they were a little bit shocked that my husband was at McDonald's, and they had me call him to make sure he was going to be back in time. So they filled the tub. I went and labored in the tub, and some of these first pictures I'll show. This was when I first was laboring in the tub. I really wanted to keep a little bit of cover. I just didn't want to be totally buck naked. Not that obviously you end up with really any shame at all in the labor process. Anyone who's been there, done that, you know. But I still just wanted to have a little bit of coverage. But when I got out of the tub, the bra had gotten wet. So then I just put on, I had just a pajama top that I had brought with, sort of like a nightgown sort of a thing to labor in. And so then I labored on the bed for a while. My midwife was trying to help get the baby a little bit lower into my pelvis, which we discovered later. My daughter is pretty big. She was 9 pounds, 9 ounces when she was born. I don't remember what her head measurements were, but her head and her shoulders were also really big. So my midwife, she's doing some pressure points on my back to help my pelvis open up a little bit more. And then, like I said, I labored on the bed for a while. Early labor, I tried to be on the ball for a little bit. With my first daughter, I wanted to be up most of the time. And by the time it came time for pushing, my legs were just so tired. So I was trying to be better about resting as much as possible. But like I said, I progress fairly quickly and go through transition fairly quickly and everything else during labor. So we went back to the tub when it looked like things were getting further along. And once we were in the tub, I definitely reached the point where I was asking for medication. I said, I don't really care what I have. I don't want an epidural. And then my midwife's like, well, yeah, we can do that. We can, how do you feel about some IV drugs? I was like, no, I don't want those. So I said I wanted things, but then whenever they had offered me the options, I didn't want them. I really wanted another unmedicated birth like I had done with my first daughter. And so I had just kind of reached that point where it was really tough. I was really, really tired out. I had the shakes really bad, which I didn't have with my first daughter, just like my whole body just trembling. And that was, my midwife said, just adrenaline. There was just so much in my system. And so that was one thing that was a little bit negative, I'd say, about a water birth. Is granted, the tub was really warm, which felt nice. So that's good when you first get in. It helps your muscles kind of relax, which is important for delivering your baby. But on the flip side, if you are wearing a bra and it gets wet, or your top part gets wet and then you're up and out of the water, it gets kind of cold. So the first time I got out of the tub, I was actually really very chilled. So they came and brought some warm towels and things and put them on me. So that's kind of a negative about laboring in the tub. We were to the point where I was definitely pushing in the tub. And one thing that I also found a bit of a negative about delivering in the tub is you can't really get a good grip anywhere, it feels like. So even when you're on your hands and knees, we had a towel under there for a little bit of padding on my knees and to help me grip a little bit more. But I just feel like you just can't quite, when you're on solid dry land, you can kind of brace yourself or hold on to things better. But I feel like you don't really get in the tub. And so again, those pictures that I showed you earlier of me laboring, I labored for quite a while, sort of on my back, holding on to these bars that were behind me. Which, of course, then the next day, I felt like if you've ever been tubing behind a boat where you're holding on to an inner tube for dear life, the next day across your chest and your arms are just so sore. I had that same kind of soreness, but across my back and kind of the backs of my arms. The one thing that was nice about laboring in the tub is you can take the weight off, which is really great. After my first daughter, because I had her kind of on the bed where they took off the bottom part, so I wasn't laying flat on my back. I was kind of up and holding on to, I think, the bars or someone's hands, I guess, I don't even remember, and then had my legs up, but I still ended up with a really, really sore bottom. Like my tailbone just ached, which really surprised me, versus with Louisa, when I was laboring for her, even when I was kind of on my back like that, my pelvis was kind of lifted in the water. And so then that way it wasn't her head pushing against a solid surface. It was just, there was flexibility there. At least I think that's maybe the difference, because I did not have any of that sort of soreness this time around with her. So eventually I pushed in that position for a while. My midwife, after I think 20 minutes to a half hour, she has you change positions. And so I had definitely done some very loud screaming and yelling. And it definitely wasn't for me the experience where you watch some of these women's videos and they're, just kind of leaning back in the tub and they just breathe through and all of a sudden pull their beautiful baby out and set them on their chest. I was hoping for that experience. Did not have that experience, again, because I had a very large baby. And so I pushed, I think it was an hour and 20 maybe, she said. And I'd pushed for about an hour and a half with my first daughter as well. So I was hoping for a much shorter push time, but again, she's just a big, big girl. That's one positive my midwife said for sure about laboring in the tub too, is I didn't have any tearing, which is awesome. And she said that she thinks being in the water really helped that situation, because she was able to help navigate her head out, help get her shoulders out, because as my midwife was explaining, once her head came out, it was just these big, huge, chubby cheeks, and then she could feel her chest all scrunched up, and she realized, like, this was a big baby. And so she did assist me a little bit, with her fingers to getting her shoulders through and everything else, which was a godsend, I'm sure, because I was pretty tuckered out by this point. So definitely for some people, you can, I think, have that nice experience. And during the laboring process, it was nice for a while because we had the lights really low in there and the water's kind of peaceful. I use the jets for a little bit, not a ton, because I get kind of nauseous from jets. At one point, my midwife was there. There was a student midwife there as well, which was totally my choice to have her or not have her, but I'm all for education. And so I was happy to have her there. And then my husband was kind of at the foot of the tub. And then there's a nurse for me, a nurse for my baby. And then there were, I think, 2 student nurses too. So at one point when I'm laboring, there's all these people just like standing in the doorway watching me. So I actually had my husband like, you need to go close the door because there is too many people happening right now. I feel like I am on stage. And so that is kind of a negative, not necessarily of a water birth, but of a medical birth, is that you might have students and you can totally say, no, you don't want them there. And I was fine for them to be there after the fact, but when you're in the throes of labor, having a lot of extra people around, at least for me, is just not, it's a no-go. But anyway, so my midwife and the student midwife, they got me up on hands and knees, and that I labored in that position for a while. I actually had to have them drain some water out of the tub because the tub was so full that while I was on my hands and knees laboring and my head was kind of down, the water was right under my nose, so I almost felt like I was gonna like drown, and I knew I wouldn't, but it was still just like one more thing. So that's something else, is where the water level is, might be something that you need to adjust. And anyway, for her actually pushing her out, I was kind of over the edge of the tub a little bit when I finally actually delivered her. And then at that point, it was just awesome, obviously. I felt her come out completely, and I turned around, and there she was, all purple and bluish, squishy, big cheeks. She had a lot of vernix on her. And when I turned around, then I couldn't just take her because the cord was there, so I had to swing a leg over the umbilical cord and then could take her. And then we stayed in the tub for a few minutes and waited for the cord to stop pulsing. And then they clamped and clipped the cord, which was neat. I didn't really get to see that very well with my first daughter. So it was just, right there. And the tub stayed pretty clean, which was nice. And then once the placenta comes out, then the water does get bloody because of the placenta. But other than that, the water doesn't get like really gross. And so that was all neat. And then I handed Louisa up to my husband, and they got me up on the edge of the tub and kind of hosed me off. And then they'd wheeled the hospital bed to the bathroom and had a trail of towels leading over there because I was obviously wet and dripping things out of my body. Made my way to the bed and got situated, and they wrapped me up in warm blankets, and I took my daughter, and that was it. So it was very tough during the process. I told my husband that we're never doing this again, which of course I told him when I was in labor with our first daughter. I think that's something that pretty much all women say, is this is the last time I'm doing this, especially if it's unmedicated. It can be really, really really tough. So if we ever were to do this again, I would hope for easier pushing again, because I labor pretty well and can get to that 9.5, and then it's that last half a centimeter in the pushing that's just killer. So a couple other things looking at a water birth is getting in and out of the tub. If you're going to try laboring different places, is a little bit frustrating. You kind of got to wait for a contraction to finish and then move either out of the tub or into the tub. It makes me think of a video game where if there's like a swinging obstacle and you got to wait for the second right after it goes by and then you run through, sort of a deal. So that's a little bit, could be a little bit sketchy. Again, you might get a little bit cold with a water birth. Gripping is a little bit difficult. Another thing too is stuff is going to come out of your body. And so the midwives have like little fishing nets that they catch for either goop coming out or poop coming out or whatever it is. They scoop it all up with like the little fish nets you'd see at like Walmart or wherever you buy fish. So that was kind of an odd thing too to experience. But overall, I think it's something that if it is an option for you and you are considering it, I think it definitely can have its benefits. Again, it helps relax your body. It can feel very peaceful. For some women that maybe aren't pushing for as long as I have to push, it can really smooth the way for the baby to come out. So that's really good too. So overall, I would definitely be open to a water birth again if my husband convinces me to have more children. Right now, we're just 2 weeks out as of yesterday. And so I'm like, nope, we're good. We can adopt. But I think it's definitely something that if we were to have kids again, I definitely for sure labor in the tub and be open to delivering in the tub as well. So that is the story of Louisa Jo being born. And she is still in here sleeping away. She's a real snuggle bug. She's just a little peach. And I apologize if you've had to hear too many of her little sounds with the microphone right here. But that was my water birth experience. It wasn't quite the beautiful luminous thing like you might get to see on YouTube. It was still hard. It's labor, and but overall I think it was really good. And the great part is as soon as she's out, it feels perfectly fine, as if nothing's been happening this whole time, and you just have your beautiful baby there to love and snuggle and bring home. So if you have any questions at all about my water birth experience, I'd be happy to share. Go ahead and comment below. Always appreciate if you like, share, and subscribe. It just helps our content get found by more people. And we will see you next time here for another video about farming, family food, and fortitude here at our Rough and Tumble farmhouse.
Show you the 3 vessels. I always think that's so cool. Can you get a good picture of them? And then I'll squeeze a little, so there's the lumen. Yeah. Nice cord. It was never around her neck, but sometimes it can be. And if they're around the neck when the head is born, then we reach down and we bring it over baby's head if we can. If it's tight, then sometimes we have to clamp and cut it. And this is the side that was against Kelsey, so everything is there. That looks all good. And when it's starting to separate, you'll see a little blood flow kind of underneath, and moms will look at you because they start to cramp. And then you know the placenta's getting ready. And then usually if I haven't checked the cord for a while, that's when I'll check the cord, because then it's usually done pulsating. So yeah, so you can see that nice 2 layers. Yep. So super cool. Luisa's home. She's like, I want to eat. I want to eat.